The Everyman Radio Podcast.
New music.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hi, Dilyana.
Hello.
And welcome to Everyman Radio.
Thank you for having me. It's my honor to be your guest and talking to you.
Okay, please say that again.
It's been an honor talking to you, and thank you for inviting me to be your guest today.
No, lovely. You're more than welcome. And Yeah, I do enjoy the interview. Well, I enjoy all of my interviews, but I do enjoy some of the more political interviews that I have done. I suppose it just ties in with quite a lot of the sort of experience and that I have of when I've lived in different countries. So lived in Vietnam and lived in Oman, and so it was just very interesting to see political events reported and reported differently by our traditional news agencies. But anyway, I'm just waffling on. So, Dilyana, please tell us then about yourself.
In short, I'm a Bulgarian investigative journalist. I come from Bulgaria. I am also international correspondent, Middle East correspondent, and founder of Arms Watch. This is my independent investigative journalism platform that I set up in probably a year ago. Because I realized that I need a platform for my investigations, because my investigations are into illegal arms trafficking to terrorists in war zones, about different war crimes, about state-sponsored crimes that fuel wars around the world. And this is how I launched my investigative journalism platform Arms Watch. And I work with volunteers, insiders, and people who really put their life at risk to save other people's life. And my investigations are focused primarily on war crimes and crimes against humanity, and I do my best to show who supplies terrorists in war zones, and I also do my best to prevent this from happening, because if these terrorists and these criminals don't have weapons, there will be no wars. Unfortunately, this is not the case, because, for instance, I've been investigating the arms trafficking to Syria and Yemen, and what I have proven with documents, with a lot of evidence, is that whole governments have been supplying weapons to terrorists in Syria, in Yemen, in Africa, in different war zones, and I'm talking about places under embargo and places where these wars are taking hundreds of thousands of lives. And that is what I'm doing now, trying to prevent this from happening and trying to collect as much evidence as possible.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I know the world has changed quite dramatically, especially since the event that was recognized yesterday. So historically, 9/11 is an important date in our calendar. And I think a lot of things seem to spiral from that event. It seemed to, I don't know, what do you think?
I haven't witnessed myself the 9/11 attacks. Of course, as all people around the world, I have watched a lot of videos and coverage. But what I think is that the US government and all these 9/11 victims have been used by the US government as a pretext to justify its crimes. Because I will tell you something that I didn't know until recently. Do you know that, okay, we are in a disaster. It's been this pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been probably 6 months since its start, I guess, yes. So I started investigating not only this pandemic, but in general, military biolaboratories around the world. These are Pentagon military or US military biolaboratories, Pentagon biolaboratories in 25 countries around the world. And I've been investigating this 2 billion US government or Pentagon program for the last 2 years. And what I found was that under the Patriot Act, 2001 Patriot Act, scientists are exempt from liability for research, if it is even illegal research, if it is for the US or authorized by the US government, even in violation of the UN Convention on the Prohibition of Biological, Chemical, and Radiological Weapons. This means that the US government has used the 9/11 attacks to adopt legislation giving basically full power to the US government to carry out illegal experiments in violation of the UN Convention on the Prohibition of Biological Weapons. This means that US scientists all around the world working in these military biolaboratories in 25 countries are allowed to do whatever research they want or whatever research the US government wants them to do and to perform, even illegally, without being able to be held to account, or they're exempt from liability under law. This is basically, I don't know how to put it, but this is not possible to be true, but it is true. So that is my last thoughts of the 9/11 attacks, that these victims unfortunately have been used as a pretext and justification of the US government crimes around the world. Attack on different countries, attack on not only, I'm not talking about only conventional weapons. I'm talking about biological weapons, and this is very scary because biological weapons, unlike conventional weapons, they can't be just transported from one place to another in boxes. These are viruses and pathogens that spread. You saw how this happened during the pandemic. I mean, so fast. It can't be stopped. Once it is out, it can't be stopped. It's very dangerous.
Oh yeah, it's frightening. But so what is your take on what is happening at the moment with COVID, and how does that tie in?
I'm investigating the whole COVID-19 pandemic, but first, the main issue is against the masks. I'm also against wearing masks all the time because definitely it's been proven that the masks don't work. I'm against this. Well, I'm not a scientist, so I can't judge based on my knowledge or my expertise. But having said that, as ordinary citizen, I think that this pandemic has been used by our governments to implement very stringent measures of control over the population. Unfortunately, what I also think is that this virus, many people, they try to probably neglect the situation, but the fact that this virus hasn't vanished for 6 months, and it is still it is something that can't be dealt with. This proves yet again that this virus was lab-made, because there is a lot of evidence, and this is another investigation that I'm preparing, proving that this virus, it is not naturally occurring, it is lab-made virus. And for some people it is really very dangerous because it is artificial, and the immune system of some people can't deal with it. So even if it is not so dangerous in general for the healthy people, there are sick people with pre-existing conditions that really can die, because this is an artificial and lab-made virus. So this is a huge crime. I mean, again, we are talking about the need for all these biolaboratories to be put under very strict control. They are not put under strict control. Much of the work performed inside these biolaboratories, in Wuhan, for instance, or in many other countries, in the United States as well, in many countries, it is not under the control of the public. We don't know what's happening inside these biolaboratories, and it turns out that scientists can create viruses under the justification of studying them. So that if once in the nature one virus somehow jumps to another host or from one animal to a human, they will know what to do. This is nonsense. We don't have such situation in which, in this case, somehow a coronavirus jumped from a bat to humans, and we have this disaster now. How is it possible that a virus will jump from a bat to a human, and this will spread all around the world? So this is very illogical, and unfortunately this is the official explanation of the scientific community, the world scientific community, simply because all of these scientists, they take and receive grants, for instance from the National Institute of Health, and they carry out the same gain-of-function research. So if they say, yes, this was a mistake, this was a laboratory leak, and we have now thousands of people dying or being sick, and we have all this pandemic now because of laboratory leak, but it's fine, so let's continue creating viruses and research them. This is not possible. So that is why all these scientists just say, no, it is naturally occurring, and this can happen, it's very dangerous, so please give us more funds so that we can investigate and we can research and we can prevent such pandemics from happening again. It is all about money again. And I'm preparing another investigation. I will talk more about the evidence that I've collected soon. So for now, this is my thought on the pandemic.
Okay, sorry, say that again. Where is your funding?
Sorry?
Or did I mishear you? I think you said that's your source. Sorry, yeah, can you just repeat what you said then? That last bit.
I said that the scientists, they have received grants, funding from the National Institute of Health, and that is why they support each other, and they don't dare say anything different from the common conclusion that the coronavirus is natural, and that the source of this virus is natural. And unfortunately, no one dares say the truth because they will lose their funding. Once the public knows that these scientists create viruses for research purposes or for whatever purposes, this type of research will stop. This type of research, which is called gain of function research. And scientists, they create chimera viruses to research them. And the coronavirus, which causing the disease COVID-19, it is a chimera virus. And it is a result of such research, obviously. Many
Sorry, it's a what virus?
Chimera virus. This is a virus consisting of two different viruses: pangolin virus, coronavirus, and a bat coronavirus.
Okay. I'm just trying to clarify and understand it myself.
This is not so easy to explain because you need to have knowledge to read very carefully the genome analysis related to COVID-19, related to this virus, and there are many genome analysis made so far, and they prove that this novel coronavirus is a chimera of two different viruses joined together in one new virus: a pangolin coronavirus and a bat coronavirus.
Okay. And so what were the words you used? A what coronavirus and a bad coronavirus, did you say?
I said bat coronavirus and pangolin coronavirus.
Okay. That's over my head. I don't really understand. I suppose I think this is one of the problems really for us people, is it does become very complex and difficult to understand the actual the true science about what is happening, and so most people will just watch the media, watch the news, and just agree with what they are told, what we are told as the truth, without doing any further investigation, any further research themselves, because understandably it is actually quite difficult. I don't know.
Unfortunately, whatever we say, this will not change the fact that this virus is out and it is spreading all over the world, and the whole economy, the economies of many countries are being destroyed. Lives have been destroyed, literally. Many people lost their jobs. People died as a result of this virus because we can neglect, for instance, the danger, but this virus is very dangerous to certain groups of people, vulnerable people with pre-existing conditions, and their life matters. I mean, for the general public, it is not so dangerous. If you are healthy and if you don't have pre-existing conditions, you can even not exhibit any symptoms, and you recover very fast. But for sick people with other conditions, it is very dangerous. It is life-threatening. And unfortunately, whatever we say, we can't change the fact that this virus has spread all around the world and it can't disappear. It is a nightmare because for now there is no cure. There is a new vaccine, a Russian vaccine, which is still in human trials, as far as I know. But there is no cure against this coronavirus. It is not that easy. So whatever we say, we can't change anything. What's been done has been done. What we can do is to try to raise awareness about these biolaboratories. Not only in Wuhan, there are many biolaboratories around the world, and the US government is the main sponsor of the so-called gain-of-function research. This so-called gain-of-function research, it makes viruses deadlier and for research purposes, and scientists are allowed to create viruses, to mix different viruses, to genetically engineer viruses in order to make them deadlier. And in order to study them, for me it is nonsense. Why do you allow scientists to create new viruses in order to study them? These are not viruses that appear naturally or occur naturally or exist in the nature. This is something artificial, and it takes so little for these artificial viruses to be leaked, and intentionally or not intentionally doesn't matter. The result is this global pandemic. These biolaboratories must be put under very strict control, and all these gain of function researches and experiments must be banned forever. This can't happen, and this must not happen, and we must do our best to fight against such gain of functions experiments.
Yeah. So what do you suggest to people? What can they do then in terms of spreading the word, or what word are they spreading? What word are we spreading? How can people respond to new government laws? I don't know if they are laws, but they're recommendations. Or so, say in the UK, lots of laws in maintaining social distancing when you're meeting, and they all become really confusing because I think it's a few days ago it was you can meet if there are 6 people, but any more than that and it's against the law. Oh, I don't know, it's just confusing. I don't know, what can people do?
We don't have such a law in Bulgaria. It sounds very weird. We are obliged to wear masks indoors, in public places, but for instance in supermarkets or in the public transport, or if we're using the public transport, but we don't have such a law banning gatherings of more than 6 people. It's strange for me. I don't believe this works, and I don't get the idea of it. It's strange for me. I don't know what to say. It's very stupid. How can you? Okay, you allow gatherings of people, let's say 5 people, but 6 people, no. Does it make any difference? No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It makes no sense. So you'd better, if you want to have to ban the spread of a deadly virus, you impose, like it was in the beginning, quarantine, self-isolation, but you don't ban people more than 6 gathering together. It is nonsense. But if the UK wants to further destroy its economy and social system, let it do it. This will be the result. It will stop nothing. This is an artificial virus. It doesn't go away, literally. Many experts said, it will go away. It will take just a few months and it will go away. There will be herd immunity, all will be fine. But it doesn't go away, which means that this is not a natural virus. If it was a natural virus, it would have gone away for now, but it doesn't, because it is not a natural virus. That's the truth. And the sad thing is that people, some of them are very afraid, and they accept these rules and these sanctions and these measures of control of the government. But in Bulgaria we don't have such laws, so for me it is strange, and I don't know how you accept it. Probably you must see what's your thought on that.
Yeah. In England, it's very varied. It depends on which shop or which bar, which restaurant, and they all seem to They have lots of stickers up, posters up. That seems to be fairly standard. But some stores and some shops are a bit more flexible and less enforcing of it. But then some are quite surprising, and you don't expect it. But yeah, some of the people tend to go a bit fascist in their in the way that they're responding, and some of the staff do become a bit authoritarian. Follower was the term that I once saw recently actually. The type of people who seem to enjoy the extra powers that they kind of have within their environment and respond kind of quite aggressively to it, and don't like. They seem to enjoy the change. I don't know.
How can anybody enjoy being in such condition, like in prison? Or I'm fed up with this mask. Even with this mask, it is basically nothing. You put a cloth on over your mouth, but your nose is open because it's so hot, or at least in my country now it is 30 degrees Celsius and even higher. So you can't breathe when you have this cloth over your nose. You just can't breathe. So you put your mask below your nose, just over your mouth. But basically, it makes it useless because it stops nothing. It is just because you need to follow the law, because if you don't wear a mask, you will get punished or you will get fined. That's the only reason why you put this cloth over your mouth, but not over your nose. It's nonsense. It is symbolic, just to have a cloth over your mouth. It stops nothing, and it's very stupid. And for instance, I think this will, or at least in my country, this will be this law will be lifted very soon. It will not last very long here, at least here in my country.
Okay. Yeah, so Bulgaria sounds like the good place to come and visit.
Yes, you're welcome if there are planes, but probably the UK will or has banned all flights. I don't know. Do you have flights to Europe? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, really. Yeah, I really don't know the flying situation. I think there are some. I know there's a lot less in the sky. Well, there's hardly any in the sky at the moment, but it seems to change. But I don't really know how it's developing. But it's yeah, it's I think it's just very difficult, for everyone.
There is something else. People, they are just getting used to it. They don't pay attention anymore, or at least in my country, people really don't pay attention anymore because it's been 5 months. Nothing has changed. Every day we have statistics of people getting sick or people recovering, but nobody doubts or put at doubt the official statistics, or if these tests, or I don't know how you test the people in the United Kingdom, but here in Bulgaria we have cases in which the quick test shows that you have COVID-19 and the PCR tests show that you don't have, or the opposite. And you have tests that show one result and the other test shows different result. How is that possible? This means that these tests, they are not truthful, or that they don't show the real result. So we are not exactly sure how bad the situation is. simply because we don't know whether we can trust the statistics and the tests. It may not be intentional. It may be just a mistake. It could be just a false positives or false negatives. We don't know, but simply what I'm trying to say is that I don't believe the official statistics. I don't believe what our governments are saying. It is very convenient to them to scare people and to try showing how many people have gotten sick and how we are all going to die. But this is not the case. This is not true. That's why I don't believe the official numbers. I don't believe, in general, I don't believe any government. So I don't believe the statistics.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you... I suppose I chat to friends in... yeah, it's all online now, isn't it? So different groups, like a WhatsApp group, a group of friends, and I tend to take the position of ranting. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. But some of them do seem to. I don't so much if they just believe it or they just kind of tend to follow it, but it does cause friction between us. I'm kind of screaming, "Wake up!"
Yes, the same. Yes, I understand that. I understand that because this virus, it is very dangerous for people with pre-existing conditions, and this is not a lie. And it is not dangerous at all to the rest of the people. So people who have, I have such friends as well. And for instance, people who have diabetes and people with cancer. I also have my family suffering from such problems. So I'm afraid for my family members because if they have this virus, they could die literally. So I understand the fears of people, but in general, if you are not vulnerable, if you don't have such pre-existing conditions, you don't need to be afraid and you don't need to wear masks and whatever, because it's not dangerous for you. And the people who have such health issues and pre-existing conditions, they must be afraid, they must take measures to protect themselves. But those who don't, you don't need to do it. So, but I understand why this is such a divisive issue. Of course, if you are sick with another disease, you'll be afraid. Of course, if your parents have very serious health conditions and diseases, you'll be afraid for them. I understand this. But if you are healthy, you don't have what to worry about. That's why I don't blame anybody. I don't blame people who are afraid. They have all their reasons to be afraid. But that's why I don't say anything. As I said already, this is not naturally occurring virus. It will take a lot of time to explain why I'm saying that. Probably I'd better. It is a very, very complex genome analysis. There are scientific publications that compare the genomes of two viruses found in China. The one virus, coronavirus, was isolated in China in a mine shaft in 2013 when 3 out of 6 workers who work inside this mine shaft. I don't know the word of this type of workers. They used to work in a mine shaft and all of a sudden they fell sick. 3 of them died and the cause of their death was not known. It was something that shocked Chinese scientists at that point because they couldn't understand what the reason behind this sudden death was. And then Chinese scientists isolated the virus that supposedly caused these workers die. And then a sequence from this virus was found in the genome of the novel coronavirus. Also, in the genome of the novel coronavirus was found part of another coronavirus isolated from smuggled pangolins. Smuggled pangolins that were seized by the Chinese customs services 2 or 3 weeks ago in 2017. And also this pangolin virus, at that point, it made these pangolins die. All of them died. And this is how, again, this virus was sent for studies, for further studies, to the Wuhan Institute of Research. So you have a novel coronavirus, which consists of the genomes of 2 other viruses previously isolated and studied in China. And the result is that you have a new coronavirus which has parts of 2 other viruses already studied and already isolated in the same laboratory. The thing is that the project, the so-called gain-of-function research in Wuhan, was funded by the US government. And this was a US funded project. And the US, the National Institute of Allergy in the United States funded this Wuhan Institute to create viruses, coronaviruses, and to study them. And this is the result. And I don't want to go further into details because it's very complex to explain. You need to be molecular biologist to understand it. And I'm talking now about such type of investigations carried out by molecular biologists who published a lot of research about the genome of the novel coronaviruses, and they say this is a chimera virus. It consists of this pangolin coronavirus isolated in China a few years ago, and a bat coronavirus that was isolated in 2013 in a mine shaft in one province in China. And this is what they say. They say this is a result of an experiment resulting in the creation of a novel coronavirus for research purposes. And probably it was leaked somehow, because it's not that hard to leak a virus if you don't follow the rules, and it's very easy to leak a virus. It's not that hard, no matter what they say. They say this is a biosafety level for laboratory. This means nothing. If you don't follow the protocol, if you don't follow the rules, you can leak very easily such a virus. It's not a problem at all. No matter if this is done intentionally or not, this is the result. You have created an artificial virus. And what is the idea of creating such viruses? I don't know. Nobody can explain why a scientist would create an artificial virus to study it. What do you have to study when this virus doesn't exist in nature? So basically you create something that can kill people and you research it. What does it mean? This literally means that you have a biological weapons program. You create biological weapons. For research, they say for research purposes. Okay, does it make sense? I create a killer virus in order to study it, but this is for peaceful purposes, so this is not biological weapon. This is this is a crime, and somebody must take responsibility for that. And this is first the U.S. National Institute of Allergies for funding this research, and secondly, the Chinese scientists. They must give answers what happened, and I don't expect this to happen because all the evidence would be destroyed for now. I'm sure they've already been destroyed. That's why nobody dares speak up. Or if somebody tries to say that this is not a natural virus, it will be expelled from the scientific community, and his life would be, or her life would be destroyed. Because basically this is biological weapon. No matter for what purposes. For peaceful, for research, for whatever. This is the result. Unfortunately, and we are witnessing the results of that. And there are many more laboratories. This is not only the Wuhan Institute of Research. There are many hundreds of thousands of laboratories around the world. Nobody knows what they are doing. There are Pentagon laboratories in 25 countries around the world. They are all located around the US main rivals, Russia, China, and Iran. And why is that? Why has the Pentagon spent $2 billion on military biolaboratories abroad instead on the health of its own citizens? It makes no sense. Why? Why is that? In countries bordering on Russia, China, and Iran. And there are many questions that need to be answered. Unfortunately, the Western journalists, they don't seem to be interested in that, and it's very hard to raise awareness about these problems in the Western world. People just don't believe it. It's very hard to believe, really. I was in Georgia 2 years ago investigating the Pentagon biolaboratory in Georgia. I met local people, and their stories were horrific. What they told me was horrific. I was contacted by people suffering from clinical trials in which they were involved. Some of them were badly damaged and they want justice, but it's very hard for them to find journalists willing to tell their stories, because these journalists must confront high-ranking US government officials, the Pentagon, big pharma, or pharmaceutical giants. And it's very sad that human life seems to mean nothing, really nothing. And what matters is money, power, and obviously in this case means to attack, in this case I'm talking about Georgia, the one neighboring country, in this case Russia, because Russia is bordering on Georgia. It makes no other sense. Why would the US government spend $2 billion on such biological research, military biological research abroad, instead on the health of its own citizens? I have no explanation.
Yeah, I have no idea. And that's your article. Is that new data leak from the Pentagon biolaboratory in Georgia? Is that?
Yes, this is. Yes, I'm talking about this investigation.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, I'm just looking at Arms Watch now. You have so many different articles on there. A similar theme, but it's frightening what you write about, and a lot of it, quite hard to take in. What is it you're working on at the moment, or writing about?
Yes, and I'm writing and I'm preparing a follow-up story on this story that you just mentioned, because I was contacted by people who suffered very badly, suffered from these human trials and experiments that have been performed on them, and they want to speak up, and they want their voices be heard, because for now every attempt of these victims to speak up has been stifled by the media or by the pharmaceutical company involved in these human trials, and they need justice. They just don't just need compensation because their health has been totally destroyed. One woman even wrote me that she's quietly dying, and nothing can be done. Their body has been damaged whole life. But what they want is to stop these experiments on people, to be stopped once and forever. And they want justice and they want to save people. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get their voices be heard. And I'm preparing a follow-up story on the Pentagon Biolaboratory in Georgia because there is a lot to be shown, and no matter how hard it is to reach the people and to show them the truth, I will not give up because I'm saying all that I'm saying. It is based on documents. It is not just a conspiracy theory as BBC says. It is conspiracy theory. They also cover the Georgian Biolaboratory, and they said this is conspiracy theory. Why? Because it doesn't fit their propaganda. That's why it's conspiracy theory. But they just don't care. I don't know how these journalists sleep at night. I have no idea. How can they live with themselves? They also have children. They're heartless people. I have no words. I don't care. They can say whatever they want. But what I do is to show documents. And this is not conspiracy theory because every single work in my investigation is based on documents and facts. And I'm just continuing, and I'm doing my best to help as many people as I can. I know that I'm alone. I can't stop them, but I'm doing my best because if I or others don't try, who will? Nobody. Nobody seems to care. I'm not expecting the BBC or others to be impartial and to show the truth. What I'm expecting is to help and give the chance of the victims to speak up and to show the truth. It is not me who shows the truth. It is the documents or the people who suffer. These are my sources, unlike the BBC sources. The BBC sources are there. I don't know actually. I'm lucky that I haven't worked in the BBC. I don't know who says BBC what to say. I don't know. But I can tell you that in my case, nobody tells me what to write. I'm independent. I rely on the support of my readers, and that's it. So I'm alone, and I don't rely on anybody. And I can publish the truth, unlike many others. That's why it's very important. This investigation concerns millions of people in any country around the world. Because we had a pandemic, and we are still having this pandemic. After a few years, it could be something else. Do you want us to go through this again? Probably we have to go through this again. Because the scientists now, they say this is naturally occurring. It's so normal. These scientists will take more and more money to try to stop the next pandemic. Well, for now, they have taken billions of dollars and they couldn't stop this pandemic. Simply because this pandemic was created. It wasn't naturally occurring virus. It was an artificial virus made in a laboratory in order to be studied or for whatever purposes. I don't know. This is a big mystery to me. I can't understand why a scientist would create a virus to study it. What's the point? To study how, for instance, a pangolin virus, if it interacts with a bad virus, what will happen? Obviously, you see what happens. It is something that doesn't happen in the nature, or it's very rare that somehow a virus in a bat, in a cave, in China would jump in a pangolin and mix with its coronavirus, and you have this COVID-19 causing coronavirus. It's so illogical, and it's even I don't know if anybody believes it. I think even the scientists don't believe it, but they don't have what else to say, and if they say it publicly, they will lose their job and their grants and their projects. They will be jobless. That's why they're lying to the people. And the governments, it's perfect time for them to impose very strict measures and laws and to control the public. For instance, in Bulgaria now we have anti-government protests, and what we've all noticed is that anytime when there is a protest against the government, all of a sudden the number of COVID-19 cases has been on the rise. It is linked, the protests, they are linked to the COVID-19 cases. And that's how governments try to control people and to keep them at home so that they don't go out and they don't take to the streets to protest. That's very simple. It's a measure of control over the population. Also, it is a source of profit for for the pharmaceutical companies, for the big pharma. They've been profiteering on such epidemics as usual. And unfortunately, there are many interests behind this pandemic, and who loses in the end, this is the ordinary citizen who has no words on what's going on. And by the way, I'm very impressed by the reaction of the people in the UK, because I saw that there were protests and people protesting the stringent measures, and this is how and what real democracy looks like. I'm very impressed by the British people, or at least what I've seen so far.
Okay. No, that's interesting. It's good to hear. It's kind of reassuring, but I know that kind of information. We don't get reports on the news. Such and such a borough in the UK, everybody was protesting, and everyone had a lovely time. We don't get news like that. It tends to be some conspiracy theorists are out in the street somewhere or other, things like that. So it's all kind of twisted. We don't ever seem to get the real news and the real truth that along the lines that you're researching and reporting yourself. It's I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know where it's going to go or how long this is going to go on for.
Neither do I. What I know is that we're doing what we have to do as journalists, as human beings, and the rest of the journalists who obviously do not, it is up to them. It is lay on their consciousness. And I'm happy and I'm very glad that I was able to share my thoughts and my investigation with you and with your listeners. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to say what I think. And not only what I think, but what is the truth, because all I said was based on documents, not on anything else.
Oh yeah, no, Dilyana, it's just fantastic that there are people such as yourself who actually care, like really care, and do actually want to expose those who are perpetrating this and are taking action on it. And so, yeah, I'm personally exceptionally grateful for the work that you're doing. Yeah, so it's fantastic.
I'm very grateful for giving me the opportunity to share my work, and I promise that in the near future I will publish more information, and then we can talk again, and I can share more about the results of my investigation with you and with your listeners. It would be my pleasure to do it.
Fantastic. And so for people to keep in touch or to find out what you're reporting, what was the best way? Is that going to armswatch.com? or is there?
This is how they can contact me. There is a contact page and also link to my social media profiles and accounts, so they can find my contacts, my social media accounts and email, and they can write me or get in touch with me if they want to provide information, to become volunteers, or just to inform themselves. This is the best way to contact me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and I hope people do. Yeah, because it has been just fascinating talking with you, and you just provide sort of much needed clarity in a subject that is actually really difficult to really comprehend and understand. On social media fronts, I've got very fed up with Facebook. It just and I've just started using MeWe, which I've had a very positive response with. So I quite like that one, and it seems to be it's not totally pure, but compared to the rest, I think it's a useful platform that will grow. That's MeWe. So I've got a page on there, and it's a different kind of way of getting the information out. You don't have to. Well, you pay for a page, so there's an Everyman Radio page at MeWe, but I don't have to pay to advertise every post, unlike say Facebook. If I want to get anything out, I have to pay each time, which I kind of understand from their point of view, but it just makes it very restrictive. I urge everyone listening to have a look at the work that Dilyana is doing, and write to her, write to us at Everyman Radio, and we can pass messages on and get questions answered and try and get to the bottom of this, and just spread the word and keep safe.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dilyana. It's been lovely talking with you, and look forward to seeing the next work that you do, and
because it was I didn't explain very well the COVID-19 situation, because it is all genome research, and it's very, very complex. I mean, you need to be molecular biologist to understand it. So probably this was the weak point in the interview, but it's really hard, believe me. It took me few days to read, to contact such molecular biologists, and it takes time. It takes time and knowledge, by the way. It's not that simple, because it is like it's nightmare. Molecular biology is nightmare.
New music.
All the light we cannot see exists inside of you and me. A reminiscent hope follows where we go, and all we know has gone. Shadows falling on your face, the turning of the night to day, and elemental grace washing away the noise. Nothing stays the same.
Thank you for listening to Everyman Radio. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends on social media.
Goodbye.